Well guys, we've come down for a bit of a recce. Come down to have a look at the stretch I mentioned in the last video. Walked the stretch up and down. Fairly familiar with the stretch. It's only, I don't know, half a mile from my house, something like that. Have fished here before several times for a few seasons on and off. It's a good stretch. When the fish are having it, it's fantastic. It can be very difficult as well. This stretch is match fish sometimes, so it's very different from where we've been up there, which is very secluded, very dark, very quiet stretch. Although it is only match fished, I think 2 or 3 times a season, that's all. So it doesn't get heavy match pressure, and even then there's only maybe a dozen pegs, something like that, spaced fairly well apart. For that reason, it doesn't actually get that much fishing pressure because the pegs are not that well sorted really. They clear up enough before the matches, but it's not too manicured, it's not too cultivated. It's still fairly wild, as you can see. All the stingers around. I think there's a really nice looking peg right at the top end of the stretch, which we'll walk up to in a minute. But I do like this peg behind me here. I fished the peg about 20 metres that way a couple of seasons ago. I had a real good campaign there and had some real good results, carp and barbel, big chub, big bream, and some tench as well. So it's a good area, was a couple of seasons ago. What I'm going to do this time, I think, is fish the peg a bit further up. As I say, it's only about 20 metres. Gives me access to, I don't know if you can see it, but sort of behind my head here, there's a nice raft collected under this willow as well. So I can, gives me a chance to draw the fish up rather than fishing in the middle of the snag, effectively, in the middle of the 2 trees. I'm going to fish above it, certainly with at least 1 rod. And I can hopefully pull the fish up. So we're going to get a bit of bait in. We'll bait up here, I should think. Well, I'll start today. I might manage a trip in the week. It's Saturday today, Saturday 8th. Might manage to get a trip in the week, couple of hours one evening, hopefully. So we'll trickle a bit of bait in now, and then we'll go and have a wander off up there. Another advantage as well of this particular stretch is it's less susceptible to the boats, in so much as it's 15-17 foot deep over there. I know this because I once plummeted it with a 14-foot rod, and I was struggling to cast over there. It's that deep. As I say, between 15, 16, 17 foot deep over there by that snag. So these boats going past are not really going to shift the water around on the bottom too much. Also worth mentioning, this time, rather than trying to draw the fish into the swim like we were up there with a big long baiting campaign, I'm pretty sure the fish are already here. All I want to do is get them used to my baits, get them used to there being some bait around and where it is. That's all I'm doing. So I'm only going to put in literally probably 20 boilies a couple of times a week, something like that, and a couple of patchfuls of pellets twice a week, and that's it. Let's get it in. I'm also though going to give all these boilies a squeeze, as I mentioned before, just to counteract the flow, stop them all rolling off and ended up at the lock. Well guys, we've walked right the way up the other end of the stretch. As I said, it's the first time I've been down this year, and I only came down a couple of times last year. I found that my favourite peg looks like this. So there's a bit of clearing out to be done here. I haven't got any stuff with me today to clear it out, so I shall have to come up. Perhaps I'll try and get up tomorrow, being Sunday. Do my own garden first, and then come up and clear some of these stingers out of this peg I like to fish. This one I've had barbel, carp from in the past, tench, chub, usual things for the Avon. But yeah, I've had some cracking fish from here as well, and this was the only peg last year I caught carp from. So I'm definitely going to get it cleared out, but it won't be today, and I can't even get in to put any bait in, so we'll leave it at that for now. Hopefully we'll get a trip in the week, and I'll catch up with you shortly. Well, good evening again, guys. Today's the 12th of July. If you cast your minds back, today's the day after we had lots of rain in the Midlands. I've been watching the river levels all day. It's up 3 or 4 inches, pushing through at decent walking pace. So I'm really confident tonight. That coupled with the factor that, as you can probably see behind me, we're in a different spot. As promised, we've come up to the stretch, to actually the top of the stretch that I mentioned in the last video. We're about 3/4 of a mile, I'd say, from the previous spot. I'll fill you in on a few details why later on in the video, but for now I'm really keen to get cast in, so I'm going to finish setting my gear up, get the rods in, and I'll run you through what I'm doing. Right guys, we're fishing. Boat's just been past, as you've seen. It's getting a bit late, to be honest, for the boats, but the restaurant boat will come past later, but I don't know if it'll come over on the camera, but we're starting to lose the light now. Time is, I reckon, about 8:30, 20 past 8. We've got set up. It took a bit longer than usual because I've never fished this peg before. I've fished the one that way, which is only 30 metres or so away that way. Fished there before, had some great catches. Done some lot of blanking in there as well, but had some great catches in there. Barbel, carp, chub, bream, fantastic. It's the reason I've come to this peg is because I can fish both of these overhanging willows here rather than just the one. So I decided to fish the next peg upstream. I've got one rod just upstream of this willow in front of me, the willow that's got a sort of raft collected in front of it. I've got one rod just on the edge of it, which is in the current, and the other rod I've put effectively in the next peg. It's cast, obviously the rod's here, but I've cast it down into the gap between the two trees over there. As I mentioned in the intro, there's definitely some water and some pace in the river today because of the rain yesterday. I'm really hoping that will sort of kick-start things. The river does seem very alive, so there's a lot of topping, a lot of fish bumping the reeds, splashing under the trees. It's looking promising, although, you know, having said that, I think I've said this before in my previous videos, not a lot happens here in the light. Maybe the twilight we might get something just as the sun's set, but really does tend to be a dark water. But we'll see, you know, we may pick something up, be a bonus. But what I'm going to do is what I usually do: fish into dark, and then perhaps for an hour after dark. Again, it's a weeknight, so I can't stay up too late. Having to get up at 6:15 for work. I have to get at least 6 hours of sleep, so I need to be in bed by midnight. So we'll perhaps fish to 11 again. As I say, I'm not far from home, only maybe half a mile from home, so it's not really an issue. Just packing away, getting back home, getting to bed. We'll see how it goes. It's looking good. There's fast walking pace of water on here, which for here is a reasonable pace. I mean, a lot of the time it's like a canal, but it's like a river tonight. So much so that once again I'm fishing the mega method feeders, but to be honest with you, and like a pillock, I should have bought some normal feeders with me, but I haven't. So what I've done to make up for it is I've mixed up this method ground bait, really sticky. It's very, very sticky, so it should stay on the feeders a lot longer than it normally would. And to give you an idea as well, I think I touched on before, where I'm fishing over here in front of me, there's 15 foot of water under this snag. It's really, really deep section here. I once plumbed the depth, actually, this next peg downstream. Excuse me, I'm getting eaten by midges. I once plumbed this peg and it was 16, 17 foot deep. So there's plenty of depth of water there. Tips pinging away again on the salty squid wafter. Baits, of course, yeah, salty squid wafter I've got in front of this snag here. I've got a TG active just on the edge of this willow in front of me, just more into the middle of the river. One cast down there I've got a Scopex squid on, but we'll swap things and change it depending on what happens or what doesn't happen. As you can see as well, probably see behind me here, because of the way things are, this is a lot steeper, this bank here. It's only a small flat area. I've had to get the unfashionable long bank sticks out. So my rods are fairly high up today because of this foliage. I don't want to smash the place to pieces. You know, I've only come here to fish. I'm not doing a load of gardening. And you know, there's a foot of grass and reeds in the front of him. Fine, stick the rods over the top. Once again, I got the tips down. As you probably heard, we had a couple of beats when that boat went past, but you know, it's 15 foot of water out here. The lines go down like that. It's not an issue at all. I'm going to recast fairly regularly here. I haven't really been putting some bait in. I've put a bit in previously, but I haven't been properly doing a proper pre-baiting campaign here. Just put a little bit in. I put a bit in when I arrived as well, so I'm going to recast probably every 20 minutes, half an hour at first, just to get a few feederfuls of ground bait out there, and a bit of smell in the water, and that's going to drift off downstream under these snags. Well guys, a quick update for you. This water's really picking up in pace now, so what I've done, nipped back to the car and picked up my big corum feeders. So I'm going to swap these method feeders off, because to be honest, it's getting to the point where they'll be just useless now. The bait's going to be gone in a matter of minutes. So quickly nipped up to the car. It's about a 5 minutes walk away. Put these, as I say, these big corum feeders on. Do the same job. I just prefer to use the method feeders because when the bait's gone, there's nothing left there for the fish to see or to spook on, bump their nose on, you know. So what I'm going to do as well is put some longer hook links on to just to keep the fish away from the feeder, and if they're getting a bit spooky, backing off the feeder. So I'm just going to put some longer hook links on as well. certainly am good with these hook baits now. I have to hit this very drop back. It might be a Bream. Nope, nothing on that time. It's on the TG Active. Get straight back out. As you can probably see, guys, I'm having to re-tackle one of the rods. Got caught in the snag. Had to really give it some welly to get it out, and I was just a bit concerned, to be honest, that you know, I'd stretched all the bottom of the line. And, you know, basically, with the nature of the snags over there, you know, if I get a fish, I'm gonna to stop them getting in that, so tackle needs to be absolutely tip top. So I thought I'd just sort it out again, strip sort of 10 metres of 20 metres of line off and total back up again. So hence only having 2 rods in the water at the moment, so I'm just tying this up. The way these rods are rattling about, I'm not sure it's going to be too long, but quite sure what it is. I don't know if you guys are finding it this year, but I was talking to Barber Ninja on Instagram, and he is as well. The midges this year, it's horrendous. It's not mosquitoes at all. It's little midges are absolutely going crazy. I'm going to stick my long sleeve t-shirt on in a minute, because they are tempting to bite me to pieces. Right, that's just about done. So I can get this rod back in the water. As things are going quite well here, I think I'm going to sneak all 3 rods in the same sort of area. I'm fishing the 1 rod to maybe 3 or 4 metres upstream of the front of this snag, because I went a bit too close, which is when I had to pull to get this lot back out. So I'm not going to stray too close again. This one here that's jumping and bouncing is about 1 metre this side of the front of the snag, basically in the deep channel. It's rattling away. Goodness only knows what they're doing to the bait down there. To be honest, the hook link on that is about 4 foot long, so they're absolutely having a heyday with that. The amount of indication I'm getting, but if I get anything decent and not sort of a Bream, then they should hook themselves, even with a long hook link. And you know, the sort of barbel principle as well of hooking themselves against the rod. You know, I've got the bait runners on here, but they're up fairly tight, so as soon as anything gives a good pull or pulls against the feeder, they'll hook themselves anyway. I'm pretty sure as this drop backs, it's Bream. As I said, we'd connect with some in this stretch, and looks like we will fairly shortly. Anyway, I'll stop talking and get this back out. Again, on this rod, I'm going to lengthen the hook link, because I've got these big feeders on, but this time I'm only going, what's that, foot and a bit, maybe 14-15 inches, something like that. And this is D-rig. It's going to have a salty squid on it. And then I'm going to put my t-shirt on, a long sleeve t-shirt, because absolutely getting chewed. I'm going to be that red and blotchy in the morning, I look like a teenager. Right guys, that's fantastic. The boat's gone, we've got the place to ourselves. Having said that, I don't know if you heard voices behind me in various points in this video, but 5 meters behind me there's a public footpath. We are in the middle of a field, you know, full of crops, but there is a footpath running behind me, so it's not quite as private as the other place we fished. But it's not a problem. As I say, I can't see anyone going past now, maybe late night dog walkers, but this is really the time now I expect things to pick up. We've been having bleeps, we've been having twitches, they look very breamy to me. The one sort of 4 foot hook link, I've just taken a foot off it, now we're down to 3 foot. See if that'll help in hooking whatever it is that's messing about with it. As I say, it's very, they've all been dropped back, so it tells me it's bream really. What I'm going to do now that boat's gone, it's been about 5 minutes since the boat's gone, I'm going to get these rods in, get it baited up again, fresh baits on, more ground bait in the feeders. I've just put some pellets and some more ground bait in as well. The time is now, don't know, judging by the sky, about 9 o'clock, 9:30, 9:15, somewhere around there. Let's have a look. Blimey, 9:30. Okay, so gonna get a lick on, get some fresh baits in the water, stick it out for another hour and see what happens, fingers crossed. Right guys, that's it. We're casting. May well be last cast. I'm not sure. Depends how things go. It's getting on for 10 o'clock now, so I think I'll give it till 11. May make another cast about 10:30. Just depends. You know, it's like when you're fishing, you just sort of you do what you feel is right, and I won't really know until the time. So I'm going to give that a good half an hour now. Leave it alone, let it settle. No torches, no banging, no noise. Just see what happens. But for now, I'm going to have a little bit of a tidy up because I can just about see still. Things are a bit of a mess, so I'm going to tidy up and we'll see how things go. Banging away on that TG Active. Plucks and pulls, bobbing going up and down, because of the extra current. I've actually I've got the sensitivity backed up on the alarm so that it's probably 2 or 3 inches of line that's been pulled before it's beeping, and the bobbin's only going up about 1 inch, which is why you can't hear it. But I'm not sure if I'll come through on the camera, but you'll be able to see it bumping up and down. The rod tip's banging away. It's the downstream rod that I've got that on. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but I've put all 3 rods now over here because there's obviously fish here. I do suspect it's bream, but you know, I've had many evenings when I've caught 2 or 3 bream and a chub and a tench. You know, caught a bream and a carp, or a barbel and a couple of bream. You know, so it's not a bad thing catching some bream. And I'm sure they attract the attention of the other fish. That there's food there. Well guys, we're into something. Feels like a big bream to me. Well, nice big bream. Fortunately, he managed not to wipe out my other 2 rods, so that's good. Been banging away on the TG Active, and he's just taken the salty squid. What a surprise. So I think we'll have a look at him. There we are guys, salty squid wafter, fair and square, in the side of the mouth. And, said we catch some decent sized bream. You know, it's no gravel pit monster, but I catch them happily, no problem at all. That's great. I mean, I'm not going to weigh it, but it's a good 6, isn't it? Probably 7 at a push. It's quite thick across the back, and usually you can tell when you get a decent scrap off a bream, which at this fort, to be fair, it's around 7 I was finding here. Right, that's a good start. It's about 10:30 now. I'm going to get him back and get the rod back in the water. And another one. Well guys, it's probably 5 minutes maximum since you last saw me. Just got that rod out 2 minutes later. It's gone again. Salty squid wafter. Same rod, same bait, same place, and same result. What I'm doing, due to my dislike of torches and disturbing the swim, what I've done, I've actually come back from the water here behind all the bankside vegetation and the grass, so the light on the camcorder's not disturbing the swim at all, and that's the reason I didn't put the camcorder light on while I was playing this, because I knew it was a bream. To be honest, if I catch something decent and I'm having decent scrap, I don't mind putting the light on down there, because you generally only get one decent fish of an evening. But for these fellas, to be honest, land them land them without a torch. It's peas in a pod. Another snotty. What I tend to find in this stretch, when I've when I fished it in previous years, is these fellas seem to charge up and down the river. You get one or two like this really quickly, then they disappear for half an hour or an hour, and then you'll pick another one up. To be honest, I usually stick them in the net as well, because I think putting them back's not good. I think they they scare the shoal, but to be honest, I'm off home in about 20 minutes, so I'm putting them back in the swim next door. So I think he's keen to get back. Let's get him back in the water. Well guys, it's just gone 11 o'clock, so that's me done for the evening. After that second bream you saw, I had another bite. It was very breamy. The bobbin was sort of up, down, up, down. I struck into it and bumped it off. 100% sure it was another bream. We had a few more twitches as well on the TG Active, but again didn't connect with anything. So not a total failure, but not the success we were hoping for. You know, I'm not going to complain about catching two big bream like that. It's a good start here. I'm going to stick it out here. We'll big moth flying around me. We'll stick it out here. Certainly have a few sessions here. Keep the bait going in. Again, little and often. We'll come perhaps have a session at the weekend. We could stay a little bit later. Well, there's so many rats around here, it's do my head in. But field of corn behind me, so it's not really surprising. But yeah, shame none of the barbel or the carp showed up, but there's plenty of bream here. To be honest, I could catch them all night. I can hear them rolling over where I've been casting. So you know, I could catch them as long as I sat here. But the allure of the bream is not as good as the allure of my bed, I'm afraid. So I'm off home. Thanks once again for watching. Enjoy your own fishing, tight lines, and I'll see you again next time.